Welcome to Between the Poles, the podcast where we dive deep into the heart of the pole community. I'm your host, Caroline. Here, it's not just about the tricks and the spin, it's about the stories, the people, and the connection that make our community so special. Every episode, we sit down with pole artists, studio owners, and inspiring members of the communities to talk about their journeys, challenges, and passions. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's get real. This is Between the Poles. Hi, Steph. Welcome to Between the Poles. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. I feel this is going to be like such a fun little chit chat. I kind of start the episodes a little bit the same way with everybody, just so our viewers and our listeners kind of have a general idea of your journey. Can you tell us how you came to pole? How many years ago or months ago did you start polling? Can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into it?
Yeah, of course. I have been, oh my gosh, I just had my 10-year pole anniversary. It seems wild, but
Great.
I originally found pole in 2014. Funny, at the time I was working as a certified public accountant, CPA, at one of the big four accounting firms, KPMG, in Greenville, South Carolina. And that was my passion out of college. I loved accounting, but I worked a lot, like 100 plus hours a week. And I really had zero movement in my life, like zero. And so it was after one busy season, I was like, I really just want to move my body. I don't know how or what. And a pole studio had just opened in Greenville. The Pole Academy, big shout out, Jack Spencer. She's my original pole mom. Their studio just opened. So they just had their 10-year anniversary too. So I looked on Groupon. I bought a Groupon for an intro class, and it was literally love at first sight. After my first class, I was hooked. I think I probably bought a month membership that day. It was challenging. It was fun. The community, everything was it was amazing. And it was difficult for me to go to as many classes as I wanted to go to because I was working a lot. But yeah, so 10 years, I really haven't taken like any big breaks. It's been in my life for about 10 years.
All right. I have like 101 more questions.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I just feel like a lot of us that are polling just are kind of average poller, right? Or people that are starting here. You kind of look at people and you're like, how did you come to this level? Like, how do you have such a big online presence, right? There's just so much. And I'm like, this is the podcast where you get to learn that. Okay. Before your first class, were you already like, had you any kind of movement background or sports that you were already kind of practicing?
So at the time, no. When I was younger, I was in gymnastics. I think I probably quit when I was 7 or 8. I was still pretty young, but I did some gymnastics. I don't remember the exact age that I was when I quit, but I don't remember a lot of that journey. I just remember it being really hard. I played soccer in high school, mainly just for fun. My sister played soccer. I have a sister, she's 2 years older than I am, and she played soccer her entire life. So I just grew up watching soccer. I liked soccer. I played soccer. And I had also, around high school, college, and still today, I danced salsa. So I had a little bit of dancing background in that sense. Gym or running or any of that, no, I had nothing when I started my first class.
I know this is not very ladylike of me to put you on the spot, but
I'm ready.
Tell us, how old were you when you took that first pole class?
Of course, I have to do math right now. No, I'm 32. I must have been like 20, 21, 22.
Okay, because I feel like a lot of us in the pole community, right? Not a lot of us start at a super young age. I feel most people start like 18 and up, or that a lot of us start as adults. So I also just kind of like just to know, right? To ask.
It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I don't feel like there's a lot out there that that the majority of the community starts at an older age. Like a lot of sports, you start really young and you kind of keep up with it. But it's the other way. We all have a life before and then kind of find pole later on in life. And I wonder as pole is growing and is becoming a little bit more mainstream, if that's going to stay as it is, or if with time people are going to start like younger.
Yeah, we'll have to see. That's one of the things I really love about pole, though, is it gives me goosebumps. You can start at any age, any background, see anything,
Yeah.
and it can literally change you from the inside out. It's so special.
You said that first class that you took, like you were hooked. Do you kind of remember why? Like, what made such an impression on you about pole that you're like, you know what, I really like this class and I want to learn more?
Yeah, many things. I remember just being from the moment I walked in, I think most of us can relate when we're going to our first pole class. It can be really intimidating. You just have this image of what you're going to walk into. And usually it's not really like so scary and intimidating as you think. From the minute I walked into the doors of the pole academy, it was like I had friends, instant friends. And so the class was fun in that sense. There was people helping each other and encouraging each other. And my pole mom, Jax, she was just the best. And so I would say community, it was hard. I felt challenged. And I think for me at that time, I really wanted something like challenging. Like I said, I don't remember my gymnastics days a lot, but it felt some things felt, this is gymnastics, but on a vertical pole.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably the people, the challenge, the fact that it was something that I could continuously do. And it kind of felt like home.
I love that. Then I kind of asked all the guests that I have filmed with so far in that first class, were you already able to lift body weight?
So I remember climbing the pole was really, really hard. I think I might have been able to connect like two climbs together. So I was able to definitely get my feet off the floor hard. Yes, I was able to do that. We learned firemen. I remember, yeah, we learned firemen. We learned how to climb, like the basic technique. It wasn't obviously expected for you to chain two climbs together. And I think we learned to dismount. Yeah.
I love it. It's just that because we come, most of us, to the sport as adults, some of us don't have that fitness. Like it wasn't my bad.
Yeah.
I was not able to get a feet off the floor for a couple of months there. I really struggled. And then it's super interesting to me because some of the guests we had on and some of the students I teach, they come from like a cheerleading background, a gymnastic background, CrossFit. They can invert class one. And I'm like, and he just good if you're the student in that same class. And they're like, oh, it's also my first class. But I'm like, but hold on,
I
different
do have
background.
I do have a funny story about the invert. That took me a long time. It took me a very long time.
Why do
And
you
that's
struggle with that? I'm not even sure that the word struggle would apply, but why do you feel it took you such a long time?
so I don't think I definitely didn't have that core mind. I mean, I didn't have the strength, first of all, to be able to invert. And I was missing a lot of core connection. So yeah, but that's all I really wanted to do, which I think is relatable. My pole mom, I've told her this story a bazillion times because she found it really funny. She wanted us to be safe. Like we were her pole kids. And so she was like, Stephanie, you're not ready to invert yet. And I was like, I really want to invert. So I decided to buy my own pole and I tried to invert. And she was right. I wasn't ready. I just really wanted to try. But yeah, so the invert took me a long time. I don't remember the exact amount of time, but it was a while.
I also like that you said, like, oh yeah, I went to my first class and then I bought a membership like the day of. I feel like so many of us fell in love so fast and then it goes from like 0 to 100. And I'm also like a culprit of this. When I started hard. And then I tell my students this as well. When they start, I'm like, I don't want to see you in here every day. Like you gotta take a break. I love your Yeah, you gotta chill. You will pull more, I promise you will, but you gotta kind of slowly pace. And I feel even like in the advanced class, even as myself, when I pull from, at some point I had to tell myself I gotta take a step back.
It's
I got
true, yeah.
the day off, and I think a lot of us when we start the excitement we feel coming into this sport, so like 100% would get that. I follow you on Instagram. That's how I reached out for the podcast. So I kind of have a feeling of what you're gonna answer for this question, but For people that don't follow you or don't know you, how would you describe your pole style?
Currently, my pole style is I love spin, I love dancy, flexibility. I definitely incorporate a lot of specific tricks into my style, but recently I've been trying to just explore tricks that I already know, but the leg here and take off a hand here and just explore, move my body in different ways instead of just like trick, trick, trick. And yeah, I do not have a ballet background. I'm currently taking adult ballet, but I have had people explain to me that when they see my style, they think kind of more like that ballerina dancer feel, which always just makes me want to cry happy tears. But yeah, that's my style now. And I think I've fallen into that style. I might be jumping ahead here, but I took a pretty, not large break from pole, but during COVID, I think we all had some amount of break. And I dove headfirst into flexibility because it was something that I felt was really holding me back. And so with my flexibility coming so far, I tend to go more now towards splits and back bends because I just think it makes me feel like so good of how hard I've worked to achieve those things. So you'll see that a lot in my current style.
I love that you touch up on that because once again, I feel it's easy for a lot of us to kind of look where you're at now and be like, she was just naturally flexible. And I'm like, actually, a lot of people that we see and that we follow online really did put in the time, right? And it's years of practice. It's also something that a lot of us don't acknowledge. I feel like it's easy for me to go online and have a look at people and be like, oh my God, like, how do you get to that level? I'm like, you've been pulling for 10 years. You've been active in your training, been like focused on your training. Like, listen, flexibility is holding me back. Let me put some time into that. And I love that our viewers and our listeners get to hear that. I feel it's really easy at any level to really just
For
compare.
sure.
That's harsh.
Yeah, no, it's really true because even now I do some amount of stretching. And when I say some amount, it could be like 10 minutes on a Sunday. Like I do some amount of stretching every day. I'm not saying I do an intense, hardcore flexibility session every day, but it's something that really feels good now. So it's like I worked really hard for years and I still, dedicate a lot of time to it. And exactly like you said, yeah, sometimes I catch myself like, that person's really flexible, probably, had it. Or even my flexibility coach, for example, he even says like he's extremely flexible, but he works for it every day still. So yeah, it's definitely something to remind ourselves that whenever we see something on Instagram or somebody that, yeah, they're probably really good at whatever they're doing because they dedicate time and energy into it, regardless of, yeah, regard.
Yeah. I kind of want to touch up a little bit on your Instagram as well, just because that's how I found you. I feel like pole is really present on Instagram. Like when you're in the pole community, I feel a lot of us follow each other, and then that's kind of that's where we learn a lot of our tricks. I'm like, what do I want to train today? And I'll go and I'll scroll, or like, oh, like this person was right. How did that start at the time of filming? I had a look this morning and you're over 50,000 followers. How did that start? How did you start posting on Instagram and kind of that story?
Yeah, I pole basically by myself down here in Key West. We don't have a physical studio, so I do all my training alone. And so even though during COVID I was still training alone, I just felt the need to connect. I think we probably all did, just connect with each other and encourage each other no matter what we were all doing. And so it was during COVID. I wanted to dedicate time connecting, growing my social media. It was around that time that I was thinking about maybe dipping my toe into some type of teaching. And so, yeah, I just wanted to utilize that time to do something and connect and grow. It's amazing. It took me a while, but I really liked that it was organic and I made so many connections and friends that I still talk to today, like from that time period. And yeah, I think it felt extra good during the COVID period because we were all a little isolated.
Yeah. Do you feel there's a certain type of post that you made that resonate with people and that kind of gave you some of that traction? Do you feel kind of like the community being super interested in something particular?
Yeah. So specifically during that time, I was beginning to share. Luckily, because I trained by myself, I still had access to the studio that I rent. So I was filming some like helpful, off the pole. If you don't have access to a pole right now, here are some leg flexibility drills you can practice. Body weight is all you need. And I think those are people were finding really helpful. And then I started to film just some very like tutorials on the pole for those people that had access to home poles. And then there was like a couple posts that took off, but it was super random for the longest time. As far as it going from, few followers to a lot of followers, or like my post getting 100 likes to 1,000 likes. I feel like it was very like even. There wasn't a big like, oh, yesterday it was this and then today it was this, It was just a slow, steady.
I love that. And then you said that you started pole kind of at the studio when you fell in love, and then now you exclusively train at home. How did that transition happen? And how do you
Yeah,
train? How do you stay consistent with that?
of course. So at the time that I started, I was in Greenville, South Carolina, and about 2 years into my pole journey up there, I worked with a wonderful company, but I was a little tired I realized it wasn't really my passion anymore. And so I actually quit my job and I moved down to where I am now, which is Key West, Florida. And we had a studio down here for a bit. It closed, I believe, around the COVID 2021 timeframe. So since then, I don't have a pole in my house because we just live in a really small apartment. So there's a ballet studio here in town that again around that 2021 timeframe, I reached out and yeah, they allowed me to put up two permanent mounts into their studio. Bless them. And I put up and take down my poles every time I go in. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 times a day, and that's where I train. As far as staying consistent and dedicated, I love pole. And yes, some days it's really hard, but I think the joy it brings me, and because it's really turned into like a habit, right? Like I pull, I like it. And I tend to like look at motivation like a little bit differently than maybe some people. I think, your habits and if you have something that you want to get to, or if you have goals, or if you really enjoy doing like the process of something, you're way more likely to just do it. So yeah, I find that I'm really good at keeping myself consistent with that.
And see,
And
I
I
find
just like it.
that different. Maybe as somebody who goes to class, like, yeah, I train on my own once in a while, but I'm really, really like a class person. I love going, having a teacher tell me what we're working on, giving me
For
cues,
sure.
spot. Having other students there, I feel like I never train as hard as when I have other people being like, "You got this, Tahoe," and then I guess I ask people that train by themselves just because I'm fascinated by that type of training. How do you go about teaching yourself when you move if you don't really have anybody there, like telling you maybe tips or tricks, or even like sometimes it's just really nice having a spot? How do you
For
go about
sure.
that?
Yeah, so I guess I was lucky enough. Like the first 2 years of my pole journey, I had that amazing community in Greenville. And then for about 3 years in Key West, I was also part of the studio here. So it was like 5 years into my pole journey when I started training primarily by myself. And I would say, I mean, I'm not saying I know everything. I'm learning a lot. But at 5 years, I felt like I was pretty good with like trying to navigate new moves, as far as like body awareness and, what I was doing wrong. I've had some amazing coaches along the way as well. Like I've, trained with Elizabeth Blanchard, who I adore, Sergia Anderson. As far as spotting, my sister, who I mentioned before, she has her doctorate in PT. She's really good with the body. For about 2 years, she would come into the studio and spot me. She was really confident, and, even though she's never done pole herself, I trusted her like with my life as far as spotting me. So I was really lucky to have her helping me with training for, again, like a solid several years, specifically with the deadlift, because that was so hard. And yeah, anytime that I do need like a hands-on assistance, she lives in Key West as well. She's always available to help me. So I'm grateful for that. And as far as like figuring out, she's also really good with that. Again, even though she doesn't know pole, she's pretty good with like, oh, it looks like you should, some of it's just body mechanics, when it's broken down. So yeah, I feel like with the team that I have and her and just like the knowledge I've gained throughout the years, that I can figure most things out. And there's some things that I'm like, wow, I don't think my body's ever gonna do that, and I'm totally okay with that.
Can I
Yeah.
ask you, what are you training right now for yourself? Like, what are you working on?
Yeah, for pole specifically, I really don't have right now like any move specific goals. I I worked on deadlift for about 3 years and I achieved that, and I was very excited consistently for like 3 years. It's a long time. I think this might be helpful for people to hear is I did work on Rainbow Marchenko for about, again, 2 years with my sister. She was helping me and I never got it. And I stopped training it because it was just really hard on my body. And I think I'm at the time in my career right now where I just really want things to feel good. And I beat myself up a lot in the beginning of my career with competing and just doing things that my body wasn't ready for. And so right now, I think my goals more so go around like, I just want to feel good with what I'm doing. I
I
do have
love
a goal of putting together a routine for pole convention in June. That's probably going to be like the biggest thing on my focus here for the next few months is getting another routine together there, because I did one last year. It was the first time I was back on stage in like 6 years. So yeah, that'll probably be what I say as my current goal, is getting geared towards that.
I love that. And I love that you say that out loud, because I feel a lot of us, right, are always kind of chasing the next big trick, the next big thing. Sometimes it's really nice to be like, listen, I don't need to be wrecking my body in insane ways where I'm trying to bend in crazy positions that require a lot of flexibility and a lot of strength. It's nice sometimes to just acknowledge, like, you know what, maybe let me try stuff that feels nicer for my body. I kind of also wanted to ask you, do you feel there's some things that your body naturally agreed with more? Do you feel like you kind of practice strength-based move more? Because deadlift is very kind of strict. I'm not even sure if about that. That's a lot of flexibility. I'm not even sure I'd call flexibility like proportions. Um, Do you feel like it's something that naturally would agree more with your body to practice?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm a little unique in the sense that I really enjoy both. I follow a gym program, so I do work really hard on my strength. And I will say one thing that doesn't really agree with my body that I really struggle with is dynamic pull. And I will take a class once in a while for, just if I want to do something really hard on a day. But that is definitely something that I struggle with. My whole life it's been difficult for me to like move fast. So I'm definitely more of a slow mover. Even when I do strength moves, it's how slow and ooey gooey can I make this strength move? And that's kind of been my vibe my whole pole career, I guess I can say. Even when I started out, I wanted to do like all the things. I wanted to do handspring and I wanted to do jade split, and and I think it's important too that yeah, I think strength and flexibility, they can really work hand in hand.
Yeah.
So often we hear that they kind of work in opposition. But yeah, I think through my active flexibility training that I spent so much time on, it's really helped me with just, strength-based moves in the process.
Yeah. I will give you kind of whiplash and go completely in a different subject or direction. I want to have quite a lot of time to touch on it. You have your own app, and then you know what? Let's start with this. How about you tell us about your app? How about we start there for our viewers, for our listeners?
For
What is your
sure.
app? What is it about? What can we
Yeah.
get it?
Awesome. Yes, I have an app. It's called Pull with Steph, and it's on iOS, Apple, and Android. It has 4 programs within it. So the first program, I call it a program, but it's the pull. So it has 4 things: pull, a pull conditioning, flexibility, and a gym program specifically designed for pole dancers. So in the pole category, I do challenges, like bi-weekly challenges, just to give people something to focus on in their training. And I will give options for all levels because out of my subscribers, there's all different levels, which I love. And then there's a pole conditioning category. So every 8 weeks, I release a new pole conditioning program. There's a demo videos along with each exercise. There's a rep scheme. And then there is the flexibility program. So again, every 8 weeks, I release what I separate out as an improvement focus. So what are we going to really focus on improving these next couple months? And then a maintenance focus, like, hey, it's really difficult to improve everything at the same time. So although I don't want to lose my middle splits when I'm focusing on my back bends, I'm going to just dedicate a little bit of time, but I'm not going to kill myself doing all of it at the same time, if that makes sense. And then there is a gym training program, and that is on a 12-week cycle. And my sister, who I've mentioned a couple times, she's the one that writes that program with my assistants to make it very pole specific. And again, there's demo videos of all those exercises, rep schemes, and it's meant to be done in a progressive overload manner. So throughout the 12 weeks, your goal is to, increase your weight, your reps, different ways to increase intensity. And on top of that, there is a flexibility library. If maybe you're not vibing with the flexibility program and you want to work on this, then there's a whole collection of back bend videos, all different lengths. So there's entire classes on there. There's stuff that just focuses on shoulders, hips. There's a splits library. So middle splits, over splits, front splits, everything active, flexibility in your splits. And there's a pole library. So hundreds of tutorials, in-depth tutorials on lots of different moves, beginner to advanced. And there's also a pole dictionary. So the pole dictionary is cool because it's really short clips, like a minute or 30 seconds, anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute and a half, 2 minutes of me demonstrating different pole moves. I think all of them except one, it's on both sides. I'm very proud of that. And I think that I have workshops for sale on there as well, a few recorded workshops. And then there's a newer category with one of my friends and fellow coaches here in Key West. She's been recording some tutorials with more low flow specific for my babes that love low flow. And there's another instructor on there. Her name's Josephine. She's also amazing, and she has yoga flows. So it has a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of a one-stop shop where you
It
can.
is a one-stop shop. That's what it's meant to be. And probably the best part that I didn't mention is the community aspect. So there's a community feed on there. People can ask questions. The community feed is actually available to anyone, so anyone can see that, even if you're not a member. And I am so dedicated, and it brings me joy to be really involved in my members' journeys. So I'm always on there giving one-on-one feedback and really encouraging questions, videos, like tell me what you're doing, tell me what you're struggling with, tell me what you need help with. It inspires me to know where I can, steer my content. So yes, I hope it is a one-stop shop, and I'm excited to just continue growing it with what people need.
I love it. And then I kind of want to touch up a little bit on kind of more the business aspect of it. Because more and more as the community grows, more people are able to live off of their pole. Um, how did you come up with the idea of an app, and what was that journey like? Because I'm sure you didn't just be like, I'm gonna create a app and then everything happened the same day, right? Like there's a lot
Right.
of work in the background. Can you tell us a little bit more about
So it's funny. It started with the gym program because my sister started writing me the gym program 5 years ago or longer, probably like 7 since before COVID. So it was it was a long time.
so
So
not over
in what?
I said so not overnight, so people
Yeah,
can like
no, no, definitely. Definitely, right? It's always like an overnight success. No, I always laugh at that too. No, it was again around 2020, 2021. I was doing the gym program. It all started out with me wanting to, especially kind of during the time when some people had some home gyms they were working out in, is me wanting to share my gym program for pole that Tiana, my sister, wrote for me. And so it all started with the Patreon. I did a Patreon in the beginning that had the gym program, and then a few of the tutorials that I talked about that I shared on Instagram of some like leg flexibility stuff. And eventually I felt like my content just kind of outgrew Patreon. It was a little bit unorganized for me at that time of Patreon. I don't know what it looks like now. And so I decided to move everything to a different website, and call it Design Your Practice. It was via a platform called Uscreen, and no app, just a library, right? Library of videos, of collections. And so that was meant to be, hey everyone, here's a library of pole stuff, flexibility stuff, gym stuff. Sign up and design your practice, right? So more like here's your content, and then you kind of figure out how to use it. And that was a great first kind of online platform for me. And a couple people were like, hey Steph, like you should get an app. I'm like, that sounds fun, sorry, but really expensive and like a lot of time.
I don't know, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it was. But so I went from design your practice, and then I believe it was 2022. I was like, okay, well, let's just try an app. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And it was a lot of work. But I've always kind of, I think since doing pole, I've learned that I can do really hard things. So if it sounds hard, it's like, okay, it's a little bit of a barrier, but it's not one that's going to stop me. I'm just going to plow through it. So I went to a platform in the UK, and I the platform wasn't the best. It wasn't super user friendly. I was really excited to have an app, but after getting the app into that platform, I was like, oh man, like this isn't exactly what I wanted, because it wasn't like I coded out an app. I found a company with a platform that was like this cookie cutter, and then I filled in all the pieces. So there was only so much I could change.
There's limitations. I do get that.
There was limitation.
Probably a lot of
Uh,
not a lot, but for some of our viewers or listeners, I know that there's going to be pole studio owners in our viewers and listeners. I feel like a lot of them would resonate with that. I do as a pole owner. I do. We have a studio app, but it is from a platform that's cookie cutter. And even just me wanting just my students to be able to book into class, there's a lot of limitations. So if you're trying to kind of relate to what Steph is saying, because you've never built an app and you don't own a full studio and you're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, those platforms are nice to start off, but there are really a lot
yeah,
of limitations on what we can do on the back end of them.
yeah, there was and overall the app actually it did really well. I was able to connect with a lot of people through there, and many people loved it. I tried my best to make it, I had just spent a lot of time designing it. And so I tried really, really hard to make that platform work. But it was actually the beginning of 2020 24, after about 2 years, I was like, I really need to make a change. So another change, right? It's just like there's always changes when you're a business owner. People can
It's
probably relate to that too. So I changed back actually to the platform that Design Your Practice was on, but they had the time I was gone, of course, they had added an app to their platform. So I moved all my content, hours and months, back to that platform. And I could not be happier with the platform it's on now.
okay.
Like it is, and my subscribers love it, especially the ones that were on the old one. It is so user friendly. People can search for everything they want. You can message me. It is, I don't really have a complaint about it, to be honest. I actually did another interview. I don't know if you know Fran, Body by Fran. She had
Yes.
me on for a business chat, and I basically was like a marketing for you screen because I love the platform and I love what it's been able to give to the pole community. So yeah, that's where I am now. I'm really happy with it. The app's doing awesome. People love it. So yeah.
I love that. And then it kind of brings me to another question because if you have an app and you have members and all of that, clearly when you're chatting to me, I also feel like a love of teaching. How did you become a pole teacher? How did that go? What do you love so much about teaching?
Yeah. I love this question because it was really actually difficult for me to start teaching. I really struggled with being was starting to teach because I was not confident in myself. I was like, why does anyone want to train with me when there are all of these other amazing pole dancers that can do all of these really cool things? And I had a couple people that were like, Steph, they're not training because I mean they're training with you because of what you know, but they want to train with you because of you. It's you. That really has resonated with me at this point, and I try to also tell people that are struggling with teaching is, you know, it's not only your knowledge, which I'm sure is amazing, but it's you, it's your personality, it's your how you interact. And also my flexibility coach, Micah Walters, made a huge impact on my mindset with coaching. So is my sister Tiana Nicole Tallant, of like what a coach can be to somebody and like the impact they can have on someone's journey and even more someone's life. I was like, how cool would it be to like be that person to someone? So yeah, it definitely was kind of difficult when I started. I'm also someone that's very kind of like a perfectionist, and I like had to make every session, like I had to plan every, you know, rep and rounds, and it was hard. But I think it's like with anything, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And now it's, I mean, yeah, if you can't tell, I love it. And it fills me with joy. And I've realized that, you know, just as much as my students say that I inspire them, my students inspire me literally every day with the questions they ask, with just like showing up to our sessions. I'm sure you know, you can relate that like if you're having a rough day or I don't know, something's like bothering you and you go to either you go to a pole class to take a pole class, or if you go to a pole class or a flexibility class and you teach it, you just leave feeling like, I don't even know what I was worried about.
100%. And I tell this to a lot of my students and other teachers. I'm like, sometimes I'm not having a great day and it's such a poor mood. And then my mood when I come in the studio comes with my mood when I get out the studio, day and night, in the studio or online in your case, just having that connection, moving my body in a way that I'm passionate about. Yeah, completely love it. I also love your mindset about teaching. And I love that if you're out there listening to us and you're kind of on the fence of teaching, I love that you're like, yeah, you don't need to be best, the most amazing. A lot of it comes from how our students relate to us. And I'm not sure about you, but in my case, like some of the students I started teaching when I started teaching are now above me. right? The things they do is, and I'm so happy for them. And like, I will support you in any way I can. Let's break down this move. I can help you with a spot. Let's try to figure out what cross training you do to make this more attainable for you, right? I'm like all for having people ahead of me. And I don't think
Absolutely.
point it discredits me at all. I think that comes from me having been teaching now for a couple of years. When I started as a full teacher, that's not the mindset I was in either.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that. And I think too, it's also I think I've also just, realized throughout my teaching career that it's important to have different teachers from different backgrounds who say things differently and move their bodies differently. Every coach is not for everybody. So, yeah, you might see somebody that you think is the most amazing human in the world at this sport. But it doesn't mean that they're the most amazing coach to every single person that wants to do that sport. So, yeah, I just think it's about, even if it sounds scary or uncomfortable or whatever your narrative is, to don't know unless you try, right?
All
And
right.
maybe you try it and you don't like it, and like that's okay too, you know?
That is also a lot, right? You got to tell people that too. I'm like, not because you become a pole teacher that you have to be a pole teacher for the rest of your life. That's great. That's also a mindset of like, try it, see if you like it, see how it goes, and then take it from there. It's
Yeah,
lifelong commitment forever.
exactly. I'm always about like, well, Steph, what do you think about this? I'm like, you know what? We're gonna try it, and then we'll assess and we'll try again or make changes or do this. It's just experiment.
But I don't want to keep you on here forever.
I know, I feel like we could talk for hours.
I can support with a lot of people. I'm like, so passionate about pole, and a lot of the guests we have on here, right? The love of pole will
I
let's chit chat forever. But I'm like, we gotta cut it at some point. Bring us to the last segment of today that we call the last grip. Those are shorter questions, a little bit easier, just a little nice positive way to finish this episode. Are you ready, Steph, for the last grip? All right, let's do it. Coffee or tea?
100%.
Favorite song to dance to right now?
I have to go with artist is Dean Lewis. Yeah, he does like Waves, Half a Man, like so good.
Yeah. Most loved pole outfit or accessory?
I just received a couple new pole outfits from Zeroni Polewear. They're based in San Francisco, California, and their material is chef's kiss, like amazing.
Okay. And how do you say that?
Definitely worth checking them out. It's Z as in zebra, Erone. I'm not sure.
I don't know
So
them.
yeah,
I want to go
the
off.
beautiful material. They're a baby company. They're brand new, so definitely check them out. Yeah.
Yay, love supporting new companies. Heels are barefoot.
Barefoot. I'm in a ballet studio that has marley floors, so I can't have heels. I miss my heels. I used to wear heels, but barefoot.
One word to describe your relationship with pole.
Passion.
Spin or static?
Spin.
Choreo or tricks?
Tricks.
Morning practice or evening?
Morning.
Love or hate conditioning? Can you tell us two or three people that you follow that we should follow as well, that you like?
Sure, people are probably following her, but Elizabeth Blanchard, she's amazing at what she does. Micah Walters, also amazing. He doesn't do pole, but really great with his knowledge. I have two more. Sorry, it's gonna be four.
Go for it.
Sergia Anderson, Sergio Luis Anderson. She's helped me with a couple of my routines. Just a beautiful human. And my sister, Tiana Nicole Tallant, her knowledge on body movement and training is really inspiring, and you'll learn a lot from her content.
I love that. What is your nemesis move?
We'll just say Rainbow Marchenko, but it's okay. I'm okay with it. I've accepted it.
I feel like the range of answers I've gotten from this is amazing. Some moves are simpler moves, and high level pullers hate it. And then we've got other moves that I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't think a lot of people live for the rainbow. You're the first one saying on this list, and I feel with time there's going to be more people adding that one to that list. You have a favorite move?
Dragon tail, anything with dragon tail, anything with a split. I don't know. I probably look up hashtag pole splits about 5 times a day just to be inspired by another pole split that I can do.
Love it. All right, Steph, that is it for us today. For our listeners and our viewers, how can we support you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so Instagram is my name, Stephanie, Stephanie. Tallant, it's T as in Tom, LLANT_pole. And my app is Pole with Steph. You can download that iOS or Android. You can also go to polewithsteph.com, StephanieTallant.com. Those are all mine. And I have a YouTube channel, Stephanie Tallant. So all those places would be great. Feel free to send me a message too on Instagram and say that you heard me here on Between the Poles podcast. I'd love to hear it.
And I will put in the caption all this information so you can find Steph super easily for all our viewers and our listeners. And Steph, thank you so much for being on today with us Between the Poles.
Yes, thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate this project that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to Between the Poles. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Stay connected with us on social media, and we'll see you next time right here, Between the Poles.